Hello, Raising a Warrior family. Very nice to see you again. We are here for another Raising a Warrior Meets interview. Now, as you well know, we are currently working on the theme, I'm Not Naughty, and we're delving into the nitty-gritty, darker side of parenting. Last month, we interviewed the fabulous Jo Morton-Brown and asked her some nitty-gritty questions about parenting, got fabulous, honest responses from Jo. And today we are with the equally fabulous Meg Roundell Greene, who is mum of 3 boys and also an exceptional businesswoman, entrepreneur, who is doing wonderful things, helping women all over the world set up hugely successful businesses. We have been in touch with Meg for quite a while now, and we really love her tell it like it is approach to life, her honesty, her sense of humor, and we thought who better to interview about the real raw side of parenting than Meg. So welcome, Meg. So lovely to have you here. We can't wait to ask you these questions and hear your take on the darker side of parenting. So I'm going to hand over to Naomi to ask the first question.
Okay, so question number 1 is, what do you feel most judged on as a parent?
Such a good question. Thank you so much for having me, both of you. It's so lovely to be here. Most judged on, this is a really interesting question, because I feel what we feel most judged on as a parent is what we judge ourselves most harshly for. So for me, it's not spending enough quality time with my children. That's what I feel I get most judged on, but that comes from me. It doesn't come from outside of me. It does sometimes from family, because they're not afraid to say, you know, when they see something, they're like, maybe you should spend more time with your baby and less time doing this. I'm like, no thanks, that's fine. But I do feel that there's this sudden like, is that too much childcare to be putting your toddler into? Don't you feel guilty? I get questions like that from people, and I shut them down quite quickly.
Yeah. Well done. But isn't it interesting that you kind of, this whole time now, the change in society of there was one parent always at home staying, and then now there isn't, because both parents have to work. So it's just like that tribe raising children is coming back in, but it's not yet acceptable.
No, because the whole saying, it takes a village, is so true. We are not supposed to live in the way that we live now, in little boxes with the nuclear family. It's not in our DNA. It's not, we haven't evolved to live that way. We're still, you know, in essence, very tribal people who are supposed to live as part of a community. So whether it's grandparents, whether it's a childminder, whether it's nursery, they become part of that village. And for me, that's something to be celebrated and embraced. But absolutely that judgment of, you know, why aren't you doing it 24/7?
Oh yeah, and I've seen, especially with the pandemic, when we've been forced to do it 24/7, and look at the mental and emotional fallout of that. That's been horrendous. Parents are not meant to be looking, and equally for children are not meant to be parented 24/7.
No,
it's really bad for both sides, I feel, not to have that emotional and mental release from each other, especially as I see parenting now putting so much more pressure. Our mothers didn't have this because everyone just got on with it. No one really cared, to be honest. No one was cared about, like, oh, in 20 years time is my child going to need therapy, because people didn't talk about it and had no awareness of it. So they just did what they liked and had no judgment.
Absolutely. And it took the pressure off, so then people were more relaxed. So then there wasn't the, oh, this person's just done this and this with their child. Oh, what have I done this weekend? Oh no, I've had to work. And you're like, whoa, stop.
Yeah. Good. All right, second question. Which behaviour in your children do you find the most challenging to deal with? And you can pick one of your children, all of your children.
One behaviour or many behaviours?
You choose. We can start with one and see where we go from.
I find The one behavior I find most challenging is not being listened to.
Yes.
Repeatedly being ignored, either consciously or subconsciously, or not,
Yeah.
they're not aware that they're not listening, they're just doing something else.
Yeah.
And when I'm in a sort of more calm parenting mode, like I don't have to get out the front door or do something or have their input on dinner, for example, that's fine. When I do, it's the one thing that drives me from naught to totally crackers in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if that's just normal. As human beings, we need to be heard and feel like people are responding.
Yes.
Maybe that's why it's such a trigger for me particularly. I'm not sure why. That seems to be the one thing. It will always come back to, are you listening? Did you hear me? Did you hear me? When you say it 20 times, it's that will drive me insane. I think that more than anything, actually.
I think you are probably not alone with that. That is a very common thread that I see in a lot of the parenting groups. And especially the work that I do with toddlers, as that sort of mindset is coming in. Yeah, it really taps into something quite
really interesting to understand it. And I know they're not doing it on purpose. And this is the thing, you can't get, angry or irritated, because they genuinely, my middle son is particularly finds it very hard to focus and do anything more than, like, if he's doing one thing, he cannot even hear. Essentially, he can't hear you. So it doesn't matter how many times you say it, he's not paying attention. No, by the 10th time, when you're like, what do you want for dinner? He's like, what? Are you talking to me?
They turn around and go, why are you shouting? And you're like, I didn't just get to this point, you just logged in at this point.
Yeah, you just logged in.
There was a gradient. That's what it is. When I was asked a question, I turn and look and say, repeat it back, and you see their face go, no, I've just been clocked, I wasn't listening. And it was like, yeah, you were clocked. And then they come up with this one random word, and you think, well, that was a nice try, but completely wrong topic.
So here's an interesting observation. I've worked with families for 30 odd years now, and I have worked with a lot of obviously business women within that, and on the topic of their children not listening, these women have come from corporate backgrounds where there is immediate return for your input and black and white return, and it's controllable, and it is, if I put this in, this will instantly come back. And especially in this world of digital technology where everything's very snappy and immediate, and it's that they find hardest to transition into, in that parenting, it can be not immediate, very wishy-washy, lots of input for little tiny bits of return, and actually quite thankless sometimes, well, quite a lot of the time. And so for me, the women who are from corporate backgrounds find it harder to transition into parental role than perhaps, say, the more, healthcare roles, or perhaps women who hadn't embarked on a career. Would that be fair to say for you, Meg?
I think it definitely is fair to say, and also the patience that it takes, and cultivating the patience is, for me, one of the biggest challenges of having kids in general, because I'm an incredibly impatient person, and I know that this is a thing I have to work on, and it has been the same throughout my corporate career and also parenting and all the things I'm doing now, because it requires insane levels of patience to have children. And I think you're right, the people who gravitate towards kind of higher level and they're quite ambitious, they're in corporate careers, tend to be people who want to get things done quickly, and who do have that reward feedback loop of show up, do the job, get results, done. Which is very different to sitting around trying to get someone to eat porridge for an hour and a half.
You're watching that one flake go in, and you're like, no, it can't possibly be like that you can't, and it's
almost a different brain. It's almost a different part of your brain.
Yes.
You have to engage, actually.
Yes.
But the way I approach my business and my life in general, if I approach that to my kids, that will make me crazy in a very short space of time, and I can't allow myself to go there. That's why I gave up my corporate role, because that was me. I was like that the whole time, 24/7. I was in corporate zone, so I'd come in and be like, bedtime, this, that, it's all happening on a schedule, which never happens, of course.
The kids go, I'll show you my schedule. So first I'll go upstairs,
I'll
come back downstairs. I'll go back upstairs, and then I'll come back down 3 steps and then go up 1. Like it is really interesting. Okay, so next question. When do you feel parenting is the hardest but have to put on your best fake smile?
I think that actually parenting is hardest when you've organised a fun day out for you and your family and your kids, and everyone's having a really terrible time. And you feel bad because it's meant to be fun, and you're like, we spent all this money doing this fun thing and you're all misbehaving and blah blah, like, and then you're like, hang on, we're doing this for them to have fun, why are we making it so awful for them? So that for me, especially after lockdown, when we didn't have anything fun to do, basically, and we had to make our own fun. So we had some organised fun when the first lockdown was, improved, went to the zoo. I just found myself getting really stressed. We were late. There was a long line. The baby's nappy needed changing. Everyone was really aggy. We were just having a really irritable time. But it was meant to be fun for them. And then you have to realise, like, I'm making it not fun. That's quite hard. Or when you go out to eat and it's meant to be a treat and it ends up just being a car crash because you didn't bring crayons and they just don't care and they're not hungry and they don't want the food, and it's meant to be fun and enjoyable. So why do we put this pressure on ourselves to make it fun and enjoyable, and in the meantime everybody loses the will to live because it's really not.
No, that is so true. So true.
Because that's all linked to our expectations, isn't it, of how a situation should pan out and how a person should feel about something, and then it's letting go of that expectation and actually embracing what came along in its place, even if it looks remotely different to what you had planned in the beginning. And with children that has to be the case all the time.
We always say as well, like, those most spontaneous times you remember the most, and it is because you just don't know where that path's going to lead. But I think that's where, like, when you take children out in society now, everything is so, especially at the moment, so structured. You go down this one-way system and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. But also, without the pandemic, the cleverness of marketing now, like going through the shop as you leave something, so then you have to have those conversations of, you can't buy the whole shop and bring every cuddly toy home with you. Like, I don't know if it's making it easier or harder, but if you say, if you went out in the forest, there's no sign, you need this, you need that, you need this. It's just like, should we just build a den out of twigs? So I think for parents as well, it's getting kind of harder to navigate the changes within, but my friends also on social media, my friend's done this weekend, mum, dad, can we go and do this? No, we can't do that this weekend because we've got to do this. But my friend went and did it, and you've got conversations that never used to take place.
No, completely. And now, especially with my older son, he doesn't want to do anything. So this is the thing, and we can't buckle, we can't give in to that, because if he says, I don't want to go out, I just want to play online with my friends all weekend, I can't allow that to happen, because that's not doing him a favour or us a favour or anyone in the future a favour, when you've got someone who will not do anything that they don't want to do, essentially. So I'm trying to build this resilience of, like, but we're doing it, so you're doing it. And once he's doing it, he really enjoys it. But we're now expected, because there's all these different things and you're kind of expected to be going out and doing lots of paid activities with your children, that's like kind of the norm. Oh, this weekend we're going to Chessington, or this or that. It's like, when did parenting get so expensive for a start? I don't remember doing any of this stuff when I was a kid. I was just sit in the garden and play with rubber bands. That's what we did.
Absolutely. Like, you go on holiday and you'd get like £5, and that was your spending money for the holiday. And it was just like, that was enough, because you'd play with the other kids next to you, or in the play park, or I think the difference is I'm seeing more of children like creating their own fun has changed to being so organized.
It's organized. I think that's the right word. It's like you can't possibly have fun unless there's a plan. There doesn't need to be a plan. And I think because of digital devices, people fear if there's no plan, they'll just do the digital devices all weekend. But you just have to remove them and let them be bored. And if my children come to me and say they're bored, I think that's a big tick, because I'm like, good, you need to be bored.
Absolutely. And that's actually a really good point. I never thought that we just don't get bored anymore because everything's so instant.
And also, if you're bored, figure that out. What can you do to make yourself not bored? Really good.
And it's really important, because if you don't have that discipline of creating your own inner world or imagination or creativity, if you don't have that as a child, you're not going to have it as a grown-up. And you won't know what to do with yourself when you don't have things to read or watch or do. You can't lean on your own thoughts. And that's a really dangerous place for a young person to be in.
How old is your oldest son?
He's 11.
11.
Tough age.
11 going on 19.
I think it's just that in betweeny, really. Quite a lot of moodiness, I would say. Quite a lot of but he's a very kind of equable chap. He's quite sort of calm, but he does get frustrated with things quite quickly, and I think it's just
there's a big peak. Is it around this age? A big peak of testosterone? Massive peak.
Hormones hit, but it's getting really interesting, because it's now on weight, and because kids are getting taller, heavier, quicker, it's like moving down to probably say 8, 9 is when hormones really start to kick in. What would happen used to be at 13. So that's why parents now, I can, year 5 in school, that's the game changing year. Anything that was underlying just goes kaboom, because they can't suppress it, because the hormones go, well, we're crazy enough as it is, let's add this into the mix. So I agree with that. So they're kind of getting questions now in their heads of hormones, and why do I feel like this? Why do I not want to get up in the morning anymore? And they're like, but I'm still in primary school, this happens when I go to secondary school. And there's a lot of confusion, actually.
Too much for a small person to deal with. I mean, you're not equipped at 13, but definitely definitely not.
Absolutely. That's interesting, because my middle son is 9, and he's not moody, but he's really pushing the boundaries with behavior. So he's really challenging a lot of things. So it's not so much the kind of moodiness and tiredness and grumpiness, it's just, how far can I push this?
And that one day it's like, you're really tired, okay, today is the day. Today I'm going to break through that fortress and go. So their timings are always impeccable.
Always. All right, final question. So helicopter parenting, this is a term that's flying around at the moment, literally and metaphorically, and that is parents who love to oversee absolutely every decision that their child is making, every avenue that their child is going down. Not our place, not my place to say whether that's a negative thing or a positive thing. Everybody will have their own opinions on helicopter parenting, but our question for you is, how difficult is it to strike a balance between ensuring that your children are safe, but also having opportunities to learn from mistakes and become more independent? Is it really difficult to strike that balance? Where are you on that spectrum?
It's so interesting, because I think helicopter parenting is now just our default. I think everybody is doing it. I think the last year especially has seen such a focus on our kids homeschooling, being in control literally of everything, logistically, that I see that. I mean, I would say that, you know, 90% of the parents I speak with, we're all doing it, even if we say we're not doing it, even if we're not aware that we are. Because, you know, what did you have for lunch today? What did you have for breakfast? What did you have for snack at school? How long does it take you to get changed into your PE kit? What happens? It's like, they don't get a break, essentially, between teachers and parents of not really having agency and control of their own lives, I think. And as much as I would love to say I'm not that parent, I definitely think I am. I do that, and I'm aware. I'm not even aware I'm doing it. But I want to make sure they're not watching devices too long, so I'll put a timer on. Like, poor children. I remember my middle son during lockdown, he was getting anxiety attacks almost from his iPad, because all his schooling was on his iPad, but that's what he associates with fun, because he would watch cartoons on it. So every time he heard a certain noise on his iPad, he said he felt sick, because it was the school lesson call. And the poor thing, they were on that device so much. And I just see, you know, where's the time for them to just go and be and not be bothered by people? So yes, it is really hard balance. I think they need to make their own mistakes and figure out when they do stuff wrong and learn from it. I had an experience with my middle son, and there was some bad language that happened on an online game, and the parents all called me and everyone was piling in, and I got like 5 WhatsApp messages, which I ignored, to be honest with you, because I didn't know the parents, and I didn't want to speak to women I didn't know about my child who they also didn't know. So I spoke to one woman, and she said, you know, we're shocked and horrified and blah blah blah. And I said, fine, I'll speak to him about it, but I'm not going to tell him off, because they're just finding out what they don't even know what these words mean. At this stage. And they just put something in, and a bomb went off and a bomb detonated. I was like, I'm not remotely bothered by this, because it happens in the playground. We just don't see it. So I think we forget children have always been swearing in the playground. It's just now we can see it, because it's
But also, the world isn't going to spin the other way.
No, exactly. So as much as I try not to, I'm sure that I am a helicopter parent, but I do think it's important to help them make decisions and let them make their own decisions, even if they're terrible decisions. If you eat a lot of sweets before dinner and feel sick, then tough. I mean, I'm not going to buy sweets next week for a start, but you have to realize that that's going to make you feel sick.
That's life's natural consequence. That's life's consequence, and apparently that's the biggest teacher, not us saying, oh, don't do that because you will feel sick. Have a go, see, oh yeah, I feel sick, right? So that's going to do way more powerful teaching, to actually experience the consequence, and maybe over and over and over again until finally, because we don't wake up with a hangover going, that's it, never again.
Oh, exactly. And my middle son now calls me, have you heard about, you know, being a Karen, this thing on the internet?
He
now calls me Karen. He says, oh, why are you being such a Karen? When if I moan about something, say, don't do this, don't do that. Oh, shut up, Karen. So I get this a lot.
I just came across that this week, and I was just like, you're gonna have to educate. But this is where the funness, like, the kids are now starting to, like, this is how they educate parents. Like, this is
it's so funny. So yeah, I know, and obviously you don't want to be a nag. It's the same as being in a relationship with someone. You don't want to be the person who is the nag. The person always saying, me, don't do this, don't do that. It's like, actually, whatever, do what you want. And this is, I have a lot of this kind of, we were talking boundaries earlier. It's like, go do it, fine, go ahead, feel free, knock yourself out, but you be aware that this is where my line is, and if you cross that line, something else is going to happen, but up to you.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference. I don't know if it's due to tiredness, being overworked and stuff like that, but parents now try and steer the kids away from ever getting to that brick wall, because I just don't want to clean up the mess the other side. Whereas actually you kind of need them to kind of run into that brick wall and go, that was not a fun experience, and go, no, but I'm still here to pick up the pieces afterwards and say, next time maybe we could do this instead. But I think my thing is, like, if a kid climbs a tree, they'll figure out pretty quickly how high they can climb. And then they'll go, I'm stuck. And it's like, well, that maybe next time don't go so high this time.
Yeah.
But that, like, figure out how you're going to get yourself down. And they look at to say, rescue me. And it's like, no, you're fine. You've got to problem solve. It's a skill.
It is a skill. It's so interesting. And I think the tree climbing analogy is really good, because that is literally, you'd be like, oh my goodness, don't do that. Don't do that. This looks spiky. It's sharp. You're going to get hurt. You know, how irritating would that be if that person was next to us, talking to us about everything we were doing in our lives? You'd be like, seriously?
Yeah, shut up. Let me get on with it.
Well, we kind of, I think for me, it's like, well, let me see how far I can go, because I don't even know that answer yet. And I think there's a lot of questions that sometimes we ask, like, but can you do that? And it's like, well, I don't even know yet. Let me give it a go.
Answer that, yeah.
And then I'll be able to tell you, no, actually, I can't do that. that went epically wrong, or that went out like, oh my gosh, I could do that. So it was quite funny. You know the monkey bars that you hold on to? Well, I like to see who can do backflips off them. And then I was just like, obviously no one was around, so I was just like, let's give it a go. And so I was just like, can I do a backflip off it? And I thought, I don't know if my body could do this. Well, it worked, but it wasn't pleasant. And then I was like, okay, so I can't do that.
Doing that.
But it's one of those things, like, if you don't try, you don't know. And I think that we'll try it first and then tell me your opinion afterwards. I like that saying.
Yeah. That's good. Well, Zoom is going to kick us out. So on the tree climbing note, I think that's a great place to leave this. Meg, thank you so much for spending time with us today and giving us your very honest opinion about parenting. I know that there will be a lot of people watching this interview and just nodding and going, yep, thank goodness someone's speaking up. It's not all flowers and fluff. It's bloody hard. So thank you so much for taking that time, and we will be coming on with another Raising Warrior Meets in our next feature next month. So take care everybody, and we will see you soon. Bye bye.